Hey you, yes, I'm talking to you,
Huh?
the one hopefully watching this video.
You got me.
This may be something you don't want to hear, but we'll all feel much better when we come to terms with it. I don't want to hear it either. I mean, it would be so easy to just continue doom scrolling and watching videos about Bethesda or Microsoft or whatever big company of the week is messing up. But, you know what? I'm tired of it. For once, I'd like to see a video recommended to me saying Bethesda is so good and everything is awesome. But we both know the world will probably become Fallout in real life before that happens. That is, unless we all come to terms with this. You need to control your wallet and stop buying games. I'm not putting all the blame on the consumer, because we as consumers are victims in all of this. However, what needs to be understood is the power that the consumer holds despite our perceived lack of power. So often I'll see comments joking about how they are disappointed, but they know that they'll inevitably buy a Switch 2 or new Pokemon or new remaster or whatever, despite the high price and lack of effort. Or I'll see the argument that people are going to buy it anyway, so might as well because their purchase is just a drop in the bucket. This type of thinking is precisely what's allowing the gaming industry to slip between our fingers like this. To understand why, we have to put this all in perspective. There's so many layers to marketing and business. Every industry has its own strange rules, exceptions, and niches. Although they are all still just businesses, even if how they function can vary tremendously. It is impossible to be successful as a business without dabbling in deceit. Even if what you offer is a net positive, just making a good product isn't enough to warrant success. In fact, making a good product is actually counterintuitive to maximizing your profit. Mass production and quality just don't mix. They're literally polar opposites. When quality comes from special care and attention, how can you replicate that with automation? Call of Duty is like a McDonald's burger. A Big Mac isn't better than the one that you can probably get from a local pub or the one that you can just make at home. Yet, it still competes and outsells its competition. Your ass is still going down to McDonald's instead of just making a burger on your own stove for way less money. Even if that local pub had the greatest burger the world had ever seen, they could never replicate the success of McDonald's without franchising and producing it on a mass scale, inevitably sacrificing quality for reach. Call of Duty consistently outsells numerous games of greater quality. Even recently, with one of its worst sales in recent memory with Black Ops 7, it still made the top 5 best-selling games of 2025. This is even with the game being cooked by YouTubers and users all over the internet. It would be difficult to find someone who actually does like this game. But guess what? It probably would also be difficult to find someone who says the greatest burger that they've ever had is a Big Mac. The bar is so low for them to clear. They know exactly what they have to do to make the base amount of money, and as long as it doesn't dip below their projections, it doesn't matter long term. They have no reason to make a better game. So why do people keep going back despite disapproving of the thing that they bought? The answer is marketing, and we are all actively perpetuating this. Look, I'm just as guilty as everyone else. My first video on this channel was a Bethesda hate video which got 800 views for less effort than any other video that I've uploaded on this channel. I just wanted to see if I could make one like all the others I see on YouTube, and it kind of worked, but I can't help thinking that I'm making things worse, just feeding into this cycle of negativity while also giving free word of mouth for Bethesda. Even if I'm hating on them the whole time, I'm still occupying the viewer's mind with 10 minutes of Bethesda talk. I'm just trying to profit off their failure, hop on the bandwagon, and, in the process, maintaining the relevancy. It's a symbiotic relationship what the gaming commentary YouTuber has with Bethesda. And I'm all for a creator making their bag. I think they're all really cool creative people. I am also trying to be a creator after all. However, there is just no escaping the fact that this is just making the problem worse. Giving Bethesda this much brain power is literally allowing them to exist without putting in any effort. Think about how they've been able to survive this long without putting out anything of value. And don't tell me Starfield, because there's more value in a ketchup packet than there is in that mountain of manure they call a game. The only reason it sold was the hype that Bethesda was going to come back from the depths. And everyone was surprised when it was just another giant step away from the kind of game we want from them. I was hyped for Starfield, and I played it for about 2 hours before I put it down, as for many of you. However, this common reaction to how mid the game was didn't seem to shake Bethesda at all. In fact, they claimed to be doing just fine, more than meeting their sales goal the month it came out. For all intents and purposes, Starfield was just fine for Bethesda, so why should they need to change? It's like the Pokemon company. Why would they do anything aside from the bare minimum if they literally don't have to? Their brand does all the work for them. Imagine if we just hit the reset button and everyone agreed to throw away their Bulbasaur plushie, delete Pokemon Go, maybe throw a few eggs at the Pokemon Cafe in Tokyo, and stop consuming anything Pokemon except for playing Black and White on their old DS. Maybe Niantic would have to put on their aprons and start cooking something we actually want to eat. Maybe they'd stop suing people because they'd be desperate for anyone to talk about them again. I propose we do the same for Bethesda. Of course, Emil, the writer for Bethesda, isn't going to care about sharpening his pen for Elder Scrolls 6 when he knows people are just going to buy it anyway. I understand it should be on the companies, not the consumer, to avoid malpractice and deceit, but that's not the world we live in. We don't really have regulations for technology. You can literally gamble away your entire life savings from your phone if you wanted to. So how far do we have to spiral until people finally decide to at least just not buy Elder Scrolls 6 day one? Maybe just refuse that Steam sale even if it's $10, because they're just going to keep burning us unless we pull our hands away from the fire. Imagine if every Bethesda YouTuber in unison decided to stop covering Bethesda until they got all their ducks in a row. I imagine we might get Fallout 3 Remake release date announced the very next day. This is the power of the consumer. They are literally nothing without us, so why do we keep guaranteeing their survival by buying Skyrim literally 19 times just for some dopamine? Seriously, imagine the kind of incredible things we could have done by now if we could effectively threaten companies with our wallet and attention. From this point forward, I'm going to try and stray away from talking about Bethesda, at least until there's something that's really worth talking about and not just some shot in the dark speculation. Not because I think it will do anything, but more so because I think it's just a better creative exercise. There are so many other games and small developers worth giving attention to than the abusive X that is Bethesda. If you've made it this far, I urge you to do the same. Striking and protesting is your historical right as a member of the human species. No one has gotten anywhere by just giving up and accepting their situation. Make these big companies actually compete for our money. A good rule of thumb is to never pay for anything from a studio that was less than what you paid for last time. Read reviews, never buy day one, and especially never pre-order. If Elder Scrolls 6 comes out and it's the biggest game they've ever made, but every quest still plays out the exact same way as their quest from 15 years ago, that's probably a sign that you're going to waste your money if you buy into the hype. Even if you're a baller and have the money to spare, I implore you, there are better, more satisfying uses for that extra cash. Go take your wife out, take your homie out, buy an indie game that looks interesting, add to your record collection. If you don't have one, start one. Do something nice for yourself, get a massage, invest it. Pay someone on Fiverr to make your own game, I don't know. Just stop throwing your money where it doesn't belong, because you are actively hurting yourself and everyone who actually cares about video games beyond just distracting yourself from the pain of the real world. Imagine if you bought every Skyrim re-release just like Bethesda expects you to. 15 times 60 is $900. The amount of things that you could do for $900, you could travel to Europe with that money. You could go to Scandinavia and have your own Nordic Skyrim experience. If you're European, you could come to LA, steal a car, and have your own GTA experience. Games are an art form, so treat it like one. They aren't just a way to kill time, and they aren't just hero shooters. They have potential to really improve your life and make you look at the world in new ways, just like a movie or book. Now, enough about Bethesda, because they are definitely not the only part of this problem. Like I brought up earlier, the Pokemon Company are barely even in the gaming industry to begin with, raking in $10.8 billion in 2024 from retail sales alone. Not a single sword or shield in that number. Nintendo truly is the Disney of gaming with how they treat their consumers. They know exactly what they can get away with, and people prove it to them on a daily basis. $80 to $90 games are barely the worst of what's to come with how they're moving. Just wait. They have no incentive that would make them slow down other than the loss of consumer support. They sneak into the minds of families who make enough money not to notice, hiding behind Mario and cute Pokemon, and take everything they can while giving as little in return as possible. The funniest part of it all is we've seen Nintendo suffer. We've seen what they're capable of when they're desperate. The Wii U era was so bleak for them that they had to just go ahead and revolutionize technology with the Switch and drop arguably a top 10 game of all time, Breath of the Wild. Since then, everything they've dropped has more so been for aesthetics. Even Mario Odyssey to a certain extent. While I do actually really like the game, compared to Mario 64, it just kind of lacks some edge and really doesn't feel as 100% as some of their past games. Even Breath of the Wild has this feeling of bare minimum, where its emptiness and lack of dungeons is overshadowed by its stellar game mechanics. Nintendo knows exactly what they have to do to get what they want. They aren't willing to provide anything more. Animal Crossing New Horizons had less content than any game in the series at launch. Super Mario Maker 2 ended up just being a less intuitive version of the first. These were some of the most exciting games of their eras, and they still kind of fell short in some way that their predecessors didn't, and yet they were still beloved. Nintendo might be the most talented edgers I've ever seen, and with the success of the Switch 2, it's all downhill from here. The Switch 3 will probably require a blood sacrifice just to turn it on. Microsoft is a sad case, especially for me. Most kids I grew up with had Xboxes, and Microsoft seemed almost like an underdog of the gaming industry. Halo was really their only big exclusive, and I loved them to death. I never could have predicted how bad this would get. Increasing the price of Game Pass at $30 is obviously just trying to get a quick buck out of the whales that forget that they're subscribed and make so much money that it barely matters to them. All because they need to add Fortnite crew and acquire Call of Duty. If I don't play COD, why should I pay more just to have it on Game Pass? They got way too ahead of themselves. If you haven't already, I implore you to cancel this poor excuse for a service. There are infinite better options, and their ideas for what games should be is so out of touch, not even Diddy could reach it.
Come out and play.
Don't even get me started on their new AI policy. With their implementation of generative AI, this isn't an ethics of AI video, and it's likely that most people watching will have differing opinions on it, which I don't intend to judge, but I will make my stance on this clear. Generative AI use is more of a cop-out than anything else at this current stage. Microsoft is so insistent on its usage because they intend on keeping up in the tech race and maintaining its supremacy. They aren't interested in making things better, or even making their games better. All of this is self-preservation. And no matter your stance on AI, this is empirical. It is literally the whole way a company functions, especially at this size. When they acquired Activision, Bethesda, Obsidian, whatever, it isn't because they want to make better games. Some of you may think that this is obvious, but I think it's important to state it plainly, because the way people build relationships with these brands, it isn't a widely accepted concept. And even those who accept it seem to forget when these companies employ nostalgia to get under your skin and charge full price for a game that you've played 1,000,000 times. This brings me to Steam, the gaming company that simultaneously excites and worries me the most. And I wish I could just be hopeful and trust in Gaben and Steam's good graces. But at the end of the day, how many companies have we seen tarnish their reputation in the last decade? Truly no one is immune. A business is an organization made up of a revolving group of people whose primary goal is monetary growth. As it stands, Steam is probably the best company in gaming. They have been for a while, but especially at the time of making this video. They have the most inclusive ecosystem out of everyone in the industry. Low prices and ease of access. Their brand is built on positive consumer practices, at least mostly based on positive consumer practices, considering how literal gambling is a strong fixture of Counter-Strike and Team Fortress 2. I would just remain wary. As Steam seeks more market control with the Steam Machine and Steam Deck, the wider they spread themselves, the harder it will be to keep this virtuous image. So yeah, just know, while you shouldn't necessarily blame yourself for what's wrong with the world, every cent and view you give Bethesda or any company is actively keeping them alive, even watching this video. So just know this and make future decisions accordingly. Why give money to something that you want dead? That being said, like and subscribe so I can stop making Bethesda videos for views. Thank you.